The 2012 film Ruby Sparks, directed by Jonathan Dayton and Valerie Faris, and written and starring Zoe Kazan, is one of my favorite rom-coms of all time, as its blend of witty dialogue and musical aesthetic make this movie feel almost real at times. Calvin, played by Paul Dano, a formerly successful writer with a little bit of block. He dreams of an imaginary woman named Ruby Sparks, his dream woman, which inspires him to write. This takes a turn from the weird when Ruby comes to life, and every small detail Calvin writes becomes a part of her. This all eventually culminates into a fight breaking out between the couple over her actions at a party that night, and when Calvin goes on a power trip, it results in some of the film's most powerful mise-en-scene. The scene starts when a completely dark scene is lit up by Calvin's writing lamp. While other dim lights are in the back, the focus is clearly put onto Calvin, as we are forced to speculate where this scene is going. The desk rarely means something good. As Calvin inserts the paper, we see a light contrast between himself and the paper. He appears dark, and the corner against the bright white paper. When Ruby enters the room, she is standing, showing the current power dynamic. She is in control. The first challenge is when Ruby walks into an invisible wall Calvin has created, causing her to recoil back in a great physical performance. This is aided by the setting, as Calvin's studio is small, so the audience feels just as trapped as Ruby. In reaction to this, Paul Dano gives at first a face of realization, as the character realizes to the extent of what his writing powers can truly go. He stands up to offer her to read, quickly changing the dynamic of the frame. He has all of the power now. In this next shot, Ruby looks unkempt, as a face with less or more natural makeup emphasizes the despair in Kazan's face. As writer Julia Teddy says in her analysis, usually Ruby literally lights up the screen with bold colors, but in here, her palette is all very muted, with a lack of lights. In his dramatic reveal, Calvin is still cloaked in semi-darkness. This half and half across his face represents the two paths he could take here, the noble or the chaotic, and with his muted yet grim smile, we are led to believe the latter will be taken.
I'm not writing about you. I wrote you.
After more flexing of his writing power, like forcing her to speak French and strip, symbolizing the deterioration of any power she once had, she is made to act like a dog. Dogs are not only subservient to their masters, a man's best friend if you will, she goes down to the floor on her hands and knees, showing even, just in the frame, the power imbalance between the two. Giving up complete control, Ruby flails around the room, having succumbed to the book. Calvin writes in his final words, "You're a genius." This part doesn't cut right away, however, hovering on the word genius. Even though Ruby is the one saying the words, we, the audience, know who's calling the shots. In celebration, the typewriter is stopped and Ruby collapses, ending the grueling physical performance and the scene.